Hello, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to the Santa Barbara CALSOAP College Fair. We are so excited to have you participating in this panel discussion. We have some fantastic schools here with us today who are going to share their expertise and give us lots of pro tips here as we get ready to kick off the rest of the college fair tomorrow. My name is Laura, and I'll be your facilitator for this session. And before we get started, I just have a couple of housekeeping items, and then I'm going to turn it over to our MC for the rest of the panel. So you've probably already noticed this on your end, but your camera and microphone are turned off. So the panelists cannot see or hear you. We still want to hear from you, however, so please feel free, send us your questions. Just drop those in the Q&A button that you see on your screen. You can type in those questions at any time and we'll be able to answer them in real time as we go, either through text or you might just hear us say it out loud on our session here. So this is our last session for today, but we are going to be kicking off again our college fair tomorrow. So you can see the full schedule for all of the events, as well as see the recordings that will be available for today at the strivescan.com/CalSOAP that you see on your screen. And with that, that is everything on my end. So now I am going to turn it over to Rachel to get us started.
Hello, thank you, Laura. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our virtual college fair. Thank you for joining us this evening. We have some very special guests speaking about very important information that could benefit you all. In this portion, panelists will present on financial aid, scholarships, career and technical education opportunities, as well as the SBCC Promise. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them in our Q&A box, and we will answer your questions as they come up. So I'll now go ahead and introduce our first presenter, Alejandra Lopez from Santa Barbara Scholarship Foundation.
Hi, thank you, Rachel, for that introduction. So like she mentioned before, my name is Alejandra Lopez, and I also go by Ale, and I'm from the Scholarship Foundation of Santa Barbara. I'm here to talk to you about different grants and as well as financial aid for students, and then also about our organization and the scholarships that we offer. So if you could go to the next slide, thank you. So I'm here to talk to you firstly about different types of financial aid. So the first is called gift aid, and this is what we consider free money that the student does not have to pay back. So this can be in forms of grants and scholarships. So these are usually based off of need or merit. And like I mentioned before, the student will not have to pay these back. There's also what we call is self-help aid. So an example of this is work study. So that is when a student goes to either a college or a university and they decide to work on campus, they actually get paid for that. Another form of that is also loans, and that is borrowed money, which the student does have to pay back, and normally with interest. Next slide, please. So there are different sources of financial aid. I know sometimes a lot of students don't know where they're getting this money. So the first one that students can get financial aid from is the federal government. There's also the state government, which California does give, actually is one of the most generous states that gives students money if they do decide to go to either a UC or a CSU here. There's also institutional aid, is when the colleges give students aid to go to that school. And then lastly, which is private aid, which is where my organization comes with, or it can also be private banks. Next slide. So what does financial aid cover? So a lot of parents sometimes ask that. Oops. Okay. So just kind of like different types of financial aid that students cover. So like the first, for example, is what's called direct costs. And direct costs is what a student has to directly pay to the college or university. So that can be either tuition and fees. If the student's going to live on campus, that's also room and board. There's also what's called indirect costs. These are costs that a student still needs in order to go to college. They just aren't paying them directly to a college. So that can be like the transportation of a student, whether they have a car or are taking the bus. Also, books and supplies is also going to be a varied cost, as well as personal expenses. And that is what usually sums up the cost of attendance of each school. As you can tell, if you're a student or whether you've been looking at different colleges have a different cost of attendance. So normally private universities will cost a little bit more than maybe a state school. And that usually just depends on the direct as well as the indirect cost of each school. So next slide. So how much financial aid can you receive? So that you will depend on your financial need. So like we already mentioned before, there's the cost of attendance of each school. And then when you fill out either the FAFSA or California Dream Act, once you complete the application, you will get what's called an EFC, which is called the expected family contribution. And this is what FAFSA or the California Dream Act believes your family can reasonably pay for college. So they will basically get the cost of attendance of a school, subtract that by your family's expected family contribution, and then that is how much financial need the student will receive. So the expected family contribution will always stay the same. The only thing that will change is the cost of attendance. So whether a student is applying for a private, a UC, or a CSU, or a community college, the cost of attendance will just be different. And then they will just subtract that by the family contribution. That's why when students start to get acceptance letters from different schools, their financial aid award packets will look a lot differently depending on the college. Next slide. So how do you apply for financial aid? So the student has two forms that they can apply to. So they won't apply to both. They will apply to either one or the other. And the form does depend on only the student's status. So if the student is a US citizen, permanent resident, or an eligible non-citizen, if they hold certain visas, they would fill out what's called the FAFSA form. If the student is an AB 540 eligible student, they will fill out the California Dream Act. And I will talk about that in the next slides about what the eligibility requirements are. For both of these forms, the application has already opened up October 1st. And the priority deadline for both of these applications is March 2nd. I highly suggest that students do not wait that long. There have been a lot of issues that I've had with students about logging in and creating accounts, and sometimes it takes a little bit longer than we're expected. So I do encourage students and their families to complete this form whenever they can. Next slide, please. So AB 540 requirements. So an AB 540 law is basically a law in California that states that a student that does not have a social security number can receive institutional aid as well as state aid. And in order for the student to receive that, the requirements in order to be AB 540 is the first one is you have to have attended a California high school for at least 3 years, either have already graduated or be on track to graduate from a California high school, as well as to attend a post-secondary school in California. So if a student that's AB 540 wants to go anywhere besides California out of state, they will have to pay for college completely out of pocket. So we do encourage anybody who is AB 540 that they stay in California and receive their education here, because they will receive lots of aid. Next slide, please. So how is financial aid calculated? So basically, both of these forms are very similar. So they're going to ask for the same thing. So the main thing that they ask is for the household income, which is the parents as well as the student, if they filed their 2020 tax returns. They're also going to ask the family about their household size. This doesn't necessarily mean how many people live in the home, but how many people receive 50% of either the parents or legal guardians' income. They will also ask for assets or investments. So for example, if your parents own a second home or have like a business, they will be asking for that information as well. And they will also ask how many people plan to go to college for that academic year. And when you submit the form and fill out all this information, you will get what is called, like I mentioned before, the EFC and the expected family contribution. Next slide, please. So here's just kind of how you can see the different types of aid. So it kind of just breaks down the type of aid and what that source is from. So like I mentioned, students can get help from the federal government. So that can be in form of the Pell Grant, as well as work study, and then as well as federal loans. Sometimes federal loans tend to have a little bit better interest rate for students, as well as sometimes, depending on if it's subsidized or unsubsidized, students can also get that interest-free until up to when they graduate, which is a little bit nicer. There's also state aid. So that is the Cal grants, whether that's the middle class scholarship for parents who have a little bit more additional income, and then the Chafee grant, which is specific to foster youth, and then also institutional aid. So for example, the UC Blue and Gold program, where if any students' parents make medium income, can also get their tuition waived from. I did want to note that if the student is filling out the California DREAM Act, they wouldn't be able to receive federal aid. It's just state aid as well as institutional aid. Next slide, please. So the CSS Profile, this is a specific financial aid application for not all private universities, but specific universities. So if you do have a student, if the student is planning to apply to a private university, I recommend that they go on the actual website of the school under their financial aid and see if this profile is required, because the schools won't notify you. You kind of have to find it out yourself. Not all of them. So like here it shows that only 400 universities are a part of this program. This is a bit more specific application. So they require the parents' financial information for 3 years. So they're going to ask for the parents' current year, the next year, and then the following year. So obviously, parents won't know how much they're going to make in 2 years. So it does ask for a bit of an estimate. And this application does cost money to complete. So the student does have to pay $25 for the first college and then $16 after. If the student can also apply for the fee waiver if they're eligible, and that would be automatic once they enter in the parents' tax information. Next slide, please. So here now, this is a little bit more about my organization. So like I mentioned before, I'm from the Scholarship Foundation of Santa Barbara. And just to give you a little bit of background, we've been around for about 58 years. In that time, we've been able to award $130 million in scholarships to a little over 53,000 students. And last year alone, we were able to give $6 million to a little bit under 1,800 students. Next slide. So we do have eligibility requirements for students. So for our general scholarship last year, we were able to award 90% of the students. So that means 9 out of 10 students that applied for our scholarship received our scholarship. So we do encourage students to apply. There is a very high probability that they will get our scholarship. The first eligibility is that the student does have to have gone to a school in Santa Barbara County for at least 4 years from 7th to 12th grade. Have already graduated or be on track to graduate this academic year, as well as attend a school full-time, whether that's undergrad, vocational school, or also grad school. And then also be a U.S. citizen, permanent resident, or AB 540 eligible student. Next slide. So I recommend that you take a photo of this. So this is our link to our application where students can continue either create an account or hopefully continue their account. The only thing that I like to tell students is to not use their their school email, whether that's for the FAFSA application or our application, because that email actually gets deleted at the end of the year and students will need access to this after their senior year. Our application has already opened up on October 15th. And then the next slide, I'll talk to you in a little bit more detail about our specific scholarships. So next slide, please. So we have 3 different scholarship programs. So the first one is the Art Scholarship. This one, the deadline for it is November 15th. This is only available to students that are in South Santa Barbara County. So whether if this high schooler goes to school in Goleta, Santa Barbara, or Carpinteria, they are eligible. So this is what we consider the most easiest application because the student does not require a letter of recommendation. There is like one little essay question that they ask the students about art. The student just has to go in, complete the application, and they do have to submit 3 pieces of original artwork. It cannot be 100% digital. Or performance art. So it has to be something that we call that you have to physically touch. So it can be a photograph, a painting, a drawing, it can be jewelry, it can be pottery, it could be woodworking, anything of that. It just does have to be physical. And the students do submit the application and then we do have them come in and drop off their pieces of artwork. We then have local artists come in and they are the ones that kind of decide the top 20 winners. So for our second scholarship, this is the Honor Scholarship. This is our most competitive scholarship that we do offer. This one, again, is only available to South Santa Barbara County high school seniors. This one, the deadline is also November 15th. So the student does have to have a minimum of a 4.0 GPA that is weighted. The SAT scores and ACT scores this year are not required. However, they are strongly recommended. We do ask for the students' extracurricular activities. For this application, the student does have to have 2 letters of rec as well as a personal essay. And then for our third application, which is our general application, this one, the deadline isn't until January 15th. This one, you just have to have a minimum of a 2.0, and this is available to all Santa Barbara County students. They need to submit 1 letter of recommendation. However, it is optional if they want to submit another one. A personal essay, which is just 350 words. I also encourage students, if they've already used an essay similar to either the insight questions that they've been doing for like UCs or any CSU or Common App essay, they can also use it for here. We also ask for any list of extracurriculars, whether the student has had community service or had a part-time job, as well as their unofficial transcript and their student aid report. The student aid report, the student can only get once they've submitted the FAFSA or the California Dream Act, which is why we encourage students to apply as soon as they can, so they can submit that. We will not accept any applications if they don't have any of the following criteria. Next question, please, or next slide. Thank you. I did also want to mention that our scholarship, the students can receive for up to 5 academic years. And students do have to reapply. So they have to reapply for our scholarship. They have to reapply for FAFSA as well as California Dream Act. So it is really important that they go every year and re-enter in tax information and then resubmit the form. So next slide, please. If you could go, thank you. So if we do have students that are planning to go to SBCC, we do wait that they wait the 2 years after they're funded to apply for our scholarship. If the student is going to SBCC, they can still apply to the arts scholarship because that is merit-based. Next slide, please. So the student, if they are planning to go to SBCC, they still have to fill out the FAFSA or California Dream Act. It's very important. That's the only way that the school will know if the student is eligible for the Promise grant. We also highly recommend the students to, even though they are planning to go to SBCC, to still complete our application. It's much easier for the students to apply again as a reapplicant because they will no longer have to submit any letters of rec or also go through an interview process. I often think it's a lot easier for a senior in high school to get letters of recommendation sometimes than it is a sophomore in college. Next slide. These are just some important dates. So like I've already mentioned before, October 1st is when the FAFSA and the California Dream Act applications became available. Our application was made available on October 15th. November 15th, like I've mentioned, is the arts and the honors application deadline. So that is in about 2 weeks. So I would definitely recommend asking any students to definitely hurry up and complete those applications, especially if they haven't submitted any letters of recommendation. As well as in January is our general application deadline. And then March 2nd is the priority deadline for the FAFSA as well as the California Dream Act. Next slide, please. You can also go ahead and follow us, whether that's Facebook or Instagram. We do not follow anyone back unless they request it. We normally do encourage students so then they can get kind of information about financial aid, as well as sort of reminders. It's definitely good to know whether we'll be on campus or when our deadlines come up as well. And then lastly, this is just any information if you want to reach out to me directly, as well as my coworker, Raul. We can definitely do one-on-ones with financial aid applications or any kind of questions that students have. We both speak Spanish as well. I do recommend reaching out to us through email. That is the office number, and we are rarely there. So definitely feel free to email me, and I'm normally able to get back within 24 hours. If anyone has any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. But if not, I will pass it back to Rachel.
Thank you so much, Alejandra, for speaking on financial aid and scholarships. And I would now like to introduce our second panelist. Speaking next is Virginia Lyons with Partners in Education.
Hi all, thank you so much for having me. I hope you're having a great night. I'm here to talk a little bit about our nonprofit, which is also administered by Santa Barbara County Education Office. So we work with all 20 school districts of Santa Barbara County, and we also serve the community and get the most of our input from the community directly as a nonprofit. So our main goal and mission is to connect community resources and schools and the youth serving nonprofits that they benefit from. So connecting professionals in the community and people in the community with resources through time, tangible resources, and career readiness training, and high schoolers, as well as K through 12 students and all the organizations that are serving them. So basically just providing that link between any unmet resource needs so that students are more prepared for what's next for them. Some of the services that we have through our programs are volunteer coordination and events for TK through 12th grade. This is a lot of different events that could be guest speaking opportunities for professionals to come talk to Santa Barbara students about how they got into their careers and achieved what they did to give them some inspiration. We also do free computers and tech support for all grades and all Santa Barbara County individuals at this time. We had a huge response to COVID-19 because everybody went virtual. So of course, as you can imagine, free computers and tech support were a priority. And we distributed over 1,000 computers just in that pandemic time. We also provide paid job readiness and internship programs to high school students. So that means that we're helping them develop any of those soft skills and interview skills, resume skills that they might not have learned in their high school classes, and they might not have the time to spend at a career center or at a library studying these things without making money to help contribute to their families or wherever their needs lie. And then we also help place them at internships at local businesses. Another is business and community engagement with schools. We have days where entire businesses or offices can come to schools and do career days, do different events, do tutoring, lots of different ways we connect them. So volunteer coordination happens through different events, some of which I already mentioned. One is career days. Those are a big event that now we're lucky enough to be able to do in person with a lot of COVID safety restrictions and protocols in place. But we do all of this hybrid now, where for a teacher who asks for a tutor in a K through 3rd classroom and they are still doing their K through 3rd classroom virtually, we have classroom buddies that can Zoom in, and we go out and find these volunteers in the community. We screen them, we cover the cost of their screening, and we facilitate it by taking educator requests and placing those volunteers to match that request. So we have different opportunities that they can do. Like I said, there's the hands-on career day demonstrations. We do webinars. We had an amazing webinar last week with District Attorney Joyce, and she gave a presentation to lots of students about how she got into that field. And it was virtual, so everyone could jump on, people from Carpinteria all over. Mock job interviews are amazing. We usually coordinate those through with career counselors who reach out to us, and they have a period of class time that they can give so that professionals can come to the school and sit down with students one at a time and basically give them their first ever practice interview, which is really important for students at that time. Computers for Families is actually our longest running program. It's been going for about 24 years now. And it started just based on the need that there was in the community, that there's this huge digital divide between students who are learning from a young age how to use computers, computer programs, and have tech capabilities. And then there's students who never get that chance until well after high school. So we provide free refurbished devices to all students and now all families in Santa Barbara County. And by doing that, we also provide ongoing tech support. So at any point during the time that the family has that computer that we distributed to them for free, they can call us and ask us for help with different things. We also provide weekly classes on online safety training for all computer recipients through our program. So they Zoom on with us, and it's held in English and Spanish. And we get to teach them about how to put privacy settings for their students or their children, how to how to be safe with hackers, different things like that. And they are able to ask questions as well. So it's really cool because we're really tapped into the community in that way, because we get to hear directly what their concerns are and address them weekly. And it's a great discussion. And then at the end, they also get their free device. Our job readiness training program has expanded virtually. So last year, we actually shifted to Zoom to do all our job readiness training classes. And that made it much more easily accessible to students, like I said, in Carpinteria, up in Santa Maria. We have students from Orcutt now. So all over Santa Barbara County, any high school juniors and seniors are able to apply. And I believe next year, we're also opening it up to sophomores. So any high school students almost can apply now and be a part of our job readiness training sessions. And it is an 8-week program where weekly they get paired with a career coach who is their same career coach throughout the entire process. And the career coach facilitates discussions for them and presentations on different topics. But at the end of this time, after they're done with the 8-week job readiness training, they actually get paid an $150 stipend. So like I mentioned previously, we're trying to supplement this need for students who don't have the means to go out into the community and get unpaid internships or spend time researching, networking jobs, and spending time at career centers to hone their skills for free. We want to be able to pay them for their time and also teach them how to use the money that they receive from us by giving them full, very well-rounded financial literacy presentations. We have a lot of our career coaches are actually from financial fields, so they will specifically give all the students presentations about what a credit score is, how to finance your first car, what is the difference between a Roth IRA and a 401k, all these things that I personally never learned in high school. I would have really appreciated it. So it's a great, great thing for everyone to have access to. And our students rely so much on their career coaches. They ask them about everything. They ask them for career advice. They get to do presentations, but also weekly they have assignments that they go through and they get to practice making their budget. And it's a really exciting program. So like I mentioned, resumes and cover letters get reviewed and taken care of in this process. They learn how to job search, they learn how to network, which includes creating their own elevator pitch, which is basically a 3 to 5 minute explanation to sell yourself and explain why you're the best person for the job. They do a lot of mock interviews. They actually start out by doing an application to the program with an interview, and then they learn financial literacy, so much more. Our next session opens in March. And we, like I mentioned, we're accepting applications from high school students all over Santa Barbara County. Once a student completes the 8-week job readiness training program and they completed all their assignments, they are in our pool of eligible students for paid internship opportunities. We work hard going out into the community, getting businesses to be a part of our program and hire these students that have been trained through our program to be a part-time employee for them. And it's a really, really great win-win for the business and the student, because they get the support of a high school student who is eager to learn and really motivated and trained through our program, but also the student gets this amazing mentorship. And we case manage throughout the entire process. We keep that relationship with our student and we keep the relationship with the business, and we make sure that it's a really good experience both ways. The placements are based on the student's career interest. Any job that we have on our portal for our eligible students is open to any student. If a student self-selects they're interested in engineering, they can definitely apply to a job at the zoo or a job at the museum or any other one of our awesome opportunities. But we do try to make it proportionate to the interests that we have on our current student pool. So for example, right now we have a lot of students interested in the medical field. So we're really looking to find more businesses that are in that field to hire our students. But they do earn a minimum wage and they get paid every 2 weeks. It's just like having a normal job, but it's a step above in the sense that it was a little bit more catered to what they were interested in. And it's a supervisor who understands the program and is willing to give a lot more feedback, and they conduct evaluations with us. We get to check in. It's definitely a lot more support. So the business pays $800 towards the total, that's the total fee for the business. And we only invoice them that after they're on our payroll. We take care of all the paperwork. We take care of the workers permit, everything they need to get hired. And during the pandemic, we started doing some positions remotely. And right now we again have in-person positions. If you have any questions about what we offer or our programs, you can definitely contact myself. I'm not sure if I fully introduced myself with my title, but I'm the Development and Community Relations Associate or Program Associate at Partners in Education, and Erika Terrazas is our Program Services Manager. We're both extremely happy and excited to answer any questions, whether it be about how to receive a free computer, how to get into our job readiness training program, the internship program, or how to volunteer with us. So thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to hearing from some of you.
Thank you so much, Virginia. Some really great information from Partners in Education on career and technical education. So our next presenter is Sergio Lagunas with SBCC Foundation. Take it away.
Thank you, Rachel, and welcome everybody. And now it's time to talk about the SBCC Promise from the SBCC Foundation. You can go to the next slide. So this is in Spanish. The English one would say that the SBCC Promise is a project of the SBCC Foundation. We've established this since 2016, so we've been around for 5 years. The students that have benefited and have been funded by the SBCC Promise have been over 5,000 students, so exactly 5,770. Yes, I would like to share the slides if that is possible. And as I was saying, the SBCC Promise, it's a robust initiative, and similar to many of the 300 plus in the nation, we are the only one that offers the most in an experience at a community college, and also the one that has the least amount of eligibility requirements to maintain eligibility in this initiative. So as a project of the SBCC Foundation, the average student benefits by saving about $900 each semester on average. So that means whether they are receiving financial aid through the California College Promise Grant or we're paying for their fees, the average is still about 900 plus. And students do not necessarily need to pursue an academic career or have a goal to transfer to a four-year university. In fact, 40% of our Promise students at SBCC are involved in a career technical educational program such as cosmetology, culinary arts, automotive technologies, and in real estate. Those are some of the popular ones. In terms of eligibility, we always have major questions about who is eligible. Just to debunk a myth out there, it's not open to all students in the Santa Barbara County. It's mainly those who are within the boundaries of the Santa Barbara Community College District, which encompasses Goleta down to Carpinteria along the coast. So when we say who is a local student, is students who graduate from a public, private, alternative, homeschool, court school, online school, and they reside within the Santa Barbara City College District area. We also have a map available on the Board of Trustees for the district, and that is available on the SBCC website. New students are eligible. Those who have graduated from high schools that I just mentioned, or equivalent programs such as adult high school through SBCC, the GED completion, or passing the California high school exam, and also students who are California residents. It is an assumption that if you are graduating from high school here, you've probably been in California for a while, but those who have been out of state and recently arrived to California in the last few years, not to worry. We'll still cover your expenses as long as you meet all other eligibility requirements, as well as students who qualify for AB 540, which really just means that you are eligible for in-state tuition and perhaps in-state aid from the California Student Aid Commission. And also, of course, I have to exemplify that undocumented students are also welcome to sign up for the SBCC Promise as they are eligible as long as they meet the other requirements. College is covered. We can't say that enough. The benefits of the SBCC Promise seem highly simple, but let me explain each one. We cover course registration fees, which means every student is charged about $46 per unit. Units, depending on each class, could be 3, 4, or even 5 for math classes and other science classes. And for every unit, it accumulates for about $500 for someone taking 12 units, for example. And we cover that unless it's covered by the California College Promise Grant, which is a state-wide effort for community colleges, which waives the fees. Either way, students are covered. We also cover mandatory student fees at community colleges. The fees aren't substantial, but we do cover the $31 as shown in the example of what a student fee total might look like, which includes health fee, which includes the student rep fee and student activities fee, as well as transportation fees, so you get a free bus pass. We also cover all required textbooks. And so as long as a student that is in the SBCC Promise has the 12 units or so and has their syllabus specifically saying you need X, Y, and Z textbooks and materials, and they're all available at the bookstore. And as long as they're required, the student will have those covered. We have a collaboration, strong collaboration with the bookstore, and all the student needs to do is just place their order and we get the bill. So that's how that works. In terms of course materials, some programs require students to have specific kits or materials, such as the cosmetology program. This is a great example because their kit is about $700, and who really has $700 to be in that program unless you save up for it? Not to worry, if you're an SBCC Promise student, we got that covered. As long as you're in good standing with us, you'll get that. And this example, again, I just want to demonstrate that the average student saves about $933. This is a good example for someone attending SBCC this semester, fall 2021, and attending with 12 units. $552 for course fees, student fees $31, and the average student spends about $350 on books. But we also know that it could be even more expensive than that, especially for STEM major related courses. And it could be over $1,000 that you save just by being in the SBCC Promise. That means any financial aid that you may get from the federal government or state aid is money in your pocket for either when you transfer to a four-year university, or perhaps you can use that to buy a new backpack and other materials that are not covered by the SBCC Promise. Quickly, the requirements to be eligible or continue your eligibility once you sign up for the SBCC Promise is to apply for financial aid every academic year. Yes, whether that is the CCPG application or the FAFSA or California Dream Act application. The commitment to be a full-time student is to be enrolled in 12 units or above every regular semester, that is fall and spring semesters. We also ask students to participate in a minimum of one counseling session each semester to go over long-term academic class planning. So this is a great opportunity for students to talk about their college major, their educational goals, career goals, and perhaps get referred to other programs like EOPS, the Career Center, or even the University Transfer Center at SBCC. We also ask, in alignment with the regulations and guidelines at Santa Barbara City College, that students maintain a good academic standing at SBCC, and actually nationwide, all universities and institutions ask students to have a cumulative GPA grade point average of 2.0 or above to continue being a student at their institution. So we say the same. So in essence, apply for financial aid every academic year. Whether you are eligible for state or federal aid or not, we still want you to just apply. You're not required to be eligible for aid to participate in the SBCC Promise. Be a full-time student, although if you need an accommodation from the Disability Student Services at SBCC, we do have a reduced unit load program where you can be a part-time student through that reduced unit load approved by DSPS and still participate in the SBCC Promise. And again, meet with an academic counselor early in the semester so that you maintain good eligibility. How to sign up? So the most exciting part is signing up for the SBCC Promise. You have to complete the steps to enroll at SBCC because Santa Barbara City College is an open enrollment institution like the other California community colleges in the state. And once you apply for admission, you can set up your pipeline account unless you're doing dual enrollment while in high school. In that case, you already completed that step, which means you can review the eligibility requirements, which what I went over today, and initially sign up for the SBCC Promise. At our website, sbccpromise.org, you'll be redirected to the Foundation's website where you can see more information about that. And the mock-up that you see on this laptop image on the right side of the screen, that is exactly what it looks like when students get to the sign-up form and they click on the red button at the bottom that says sign me up. So students have a commitment to the 4 requirements to stay eligible for the SBCC Promise, and the team at the SBCC Promise project through the SBCC Foundation promises to connect students to student services when needed to inform students about the SBCC Promise eligibility and to really alert students through either phone calls, through emails, newsletters on the eligibility requirements and deadlines. We also are committed to solving any funding issues with the cashier's office or bookstore, being that there might be a disconnection with the participants' eligibility at the moment. Now, I want you all to stay connected. We have our general email address, promise@sbccfoundation.org. You can also call us at our general line, which is 805-730-4416. Visit our website, sbccpromise.org, and follow us on Instagram. Yes, we do have an account. We have parents, community members, colleagues, students, all types of followers, and we ask for more so we can spread our message about this great opportunity in our community. Again, at SBCC Promise, our office hours are listed below, and we just ask that if you ever have any questions, feel free to ask. There is no wrong door and no wrong question, and we will try to have the best information for you regards to the SBCC Promise and Santa Barbara City College. In fact, our colleagues have asked us to go over the steps to enroll. How do we even get started at Santa Barbara City College? Again, out of the 116 community colleges in California, you are choosing to go to Santa Barbara because it's in your very own backyard and it's a top-notch California community college in your area. Again, step 1 is to apply for admission. Step 2, review or create your pipeline account and sign up for the SBCC Promise. Review your placement for math and English to see where you start at SBCC. Go over the orientation, which is fully online and self-paced. You just have to complete that. And it's also mandatory to complete academic class planning with an academic counselor at SBCC just to get you started for your first semester. And then once you do all those steps, then you can go to the final step, which is actually registering for classes. You don't need to do the final step, which would be like step 7, which is paying for your classes, because guess who's paying for that? We got you covered because college is covered. Again, if you have questions about enrollment in particular, contact the enrollment services team. They are always available Monday through Friday through their regular hours. We have listed our local high school outreach coordinators, such as Mary Lou Huerta and Liz Stein. You may want to take a screenshot of this page as you may have plenty of questions about how to get started at SBCC, and these two are your go-tos. They also have a general hotline, which is 805-730-4086, and you see their hours listed below. Again, any questions in regards to enrollment, these are your folks.
Thank you, Sergio, and thank you so much to all our presenters for your great presentations. Thank you all for coming. I hope you all learned a lot from these presentations, and now that you all have their contact information, reach out if you have any further questions. But we are all done for today. If you haven't registered for tomorrow's event, it is not too late. Thank you.
All right, bye everyone. Have a great night. Just a last final note here is that we do have a survey we'll be routing you through when we close out. So I'd appreciate any feedback you have on that. It's just 5 questions. And just want to reiterate that we will have our full college fair tomorrow. So we're excited to see you there. That's strivescan.com/CalSOAP. You can access all the recordings from tonight in there as well. Have a great night, everyone. Bye-bye.